Life. It's an interesting topic. It's full of ups, downs, twists, and turns. But what happens when you realize that life, the one thing that's legitimately keeping you on this earth, is put at risk? Do you turn to religion? Do you talk to a loved one? Do you make the most of life, or do you just give up all hope and let it slip away? When scanning through potential poems to analyze, my attention immediately geared toward a poem titled On the Grasshopper and the Cricket by Keats. It might be a bad habit, but honestly, I judge a book by its cover when it comes to poetry, since any poem that I read has to have a catchy title. On the Grasshopper and the Cricket by Keats. The poetry of earth is never dead. When all the birds are faint with the hot sun, and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run, from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshopper's, he takes the lead. In summer luxury he has never done, with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening, when the frost has wrought silence, from the stove there shrills the cricket's song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among some grassy hills. Keats's poem is in the form of a Petrarchan sonnet. It's filled with lots of imagery and symbols. The speaker says that the poetry of earth is never dead in his opening line, which contrasts with the main characters, the grasshopper and the cricket. Poetry, which is nature, is never dead. It'll keep going forever. But mortal beings do die inevitably. It's up to the being to either seize the day and make the most of his time on earth, or just to sit and watch it go by. The grasshopper lives a luxurious and fun life, as he runs from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. But he wastes all of his energy during one part of his life, which is summer in this case. The cricket, however, knows how to make the most of his short-lived life. He spreads apart his happiness as to be content for a longer period of time. He fills every day of his life singing, in warmth increasing ever, even through the harshest times of winter. Immediately after reading this poem, I had a flashback to just about this time last year, when, as most of you know, I was out of school with a very bad arm break. And for those of you who don't, I was snowboarding, and bottom line is that I jumped, I fell, I shattered my arm in 8 places, and was rushed to the hospital. So, the first aspect of this poem that struck a chord with my memory was the lone winter evening line, which directly related to the time period when my accident occurred. Also, the drowsiness half lost line reminded me exactly of how I felt when it happened, which is pretty self-explanatory. What most of you may not know, however, is that immediately after my surgery thankfully went well, the doctors had something else to explain to me. They had to explain the severity of my situation. When the break was first examined, they realized that I was lucky to even survive the car ride on the way to the hospital, and they thought that I definitely should have been airlifted from the mountain had they known how bad it was. That moment, the moment that I realized that I could be dead, the moment that I realized that death could happen literally in the blink of an eye, is when I put my life into perspective. I thought about all of the things that I hoped to accomplish before death, and how people would view me after it. Questions and thoughts were pervasive throughout my mind. Which people have influenced me most? What things or people in my life had I taken advantage of? What should I change about myself to be a person without regrets? But most of all, after having read this poem, the question was, would I rather live life as a grasshopper or a cricket?